In this lesson, we'll spend a little bit more attention on the mesh before moving on to creating the tubes. So rather than just kind of doing this on my own, kind of doing those last little tweaks, let's go ahead and do those together just so you can kind of see what it is we want to do to kind of finish this up. If we hit 3 on our keyboard, you can see this is what we get. This is kind of where we left off in the last lesson. Right now, as we talked about, this is really soft here. This edge is really soft. There's also a really sharp edge here. We might want more of kind of a flat plane coming down to give us the idea of a little bit of thickness. So we want to make a few modifications to this mesh. The nice thing about building this symmetrically is if we have to make some modifications symmetrically, we can do that across symmetry, or we can delete the mesh and then mirror it back across. All right, let's go into our move options and let's turn on symmetry. So we're going to go down to the tool settings, go down to symmetry, and let's turn it on in the world x-axis. So now I want to select from this face, and I'll shift click all the way down here, double click, and that'll select those faces on both sides. Selected the ones on this side because I clicked, just like with the edges, one and then the other one at the end, and then because we have symmetry on it, clicked the other side too. Let's go ahead and select these faces at the bottom. With those selected, let's go to Edit Mesh, Face, Extrude. Let's pull this out in the Z direction. Okay, so we get something more like that. All right, now that gives us our thickness, but when we smooth it, it still kind of rounds it out, and we want it to be more of a hard bevel. So let's go to our Insert Edge Loop tool, and let's add one right here. Let's check and see. Now it didn't work with the Insert Edge Loop tool, so we would have to go in and just do it on both sides because we're not selecting anything. If we wanted to, we could come in and just select those edges. So let's click and double click on those edges, and you can see that actually selects them all the way through. If we did it this way, we could come in and use Connect. Oops. Open up our modeling toolkit, use Connect, and come down and add 2 segments. Okay, and then we could use these, change these pinch values, middle mouse drag those so that those edges go right up against, and you can see it's getting both of those. Okay, on both sides. So that will allow us to do it symmetrically. Oops. Let's make sure we get that completed. There we go. Hit enter on our keyboard. So now when we smooth it, we get a nice sharp kind of thickness right there. Now we also want some sharpness here, so let's use our Insert Edge Loop tool. And you can see this isn't using symmetry, it's because the edges, the way the topology flows, those edges curve around. So it's actually one edge loop. It's not working symmetrically. So that tightens that up. Let's do the same thing up in here. We use our Insert Edge Loop tool right inside here. Again, checking that, looks pretty good. Now, if we want to sharpen up these corners, you don't have to add geometry. I often like to add geometry because it's predictable and it's portable. You can move it between applications and you don't have to worry about losing the data. It's always going to be there. But we can also come in and select, for instance, these edges here. We've got both of them selected. Let's go ahead and smooth this out. And we want to crease these edges. So let's go to Mesh Tools, Crease Tool, and we'll use the middle mouse to drag this out. And creasing those edges sharpens them up. So you can see we get a nice sharp corner now. We want to do the same thing down here. We'll select these edges at the bottom. Okay, just those edges. And let's do a crease. And so you can see that it creates a little bit of sharpness down there at the bottom of that line as well, without having to add that extra geometry. So that gives us a little bit more of a hard surface look, where we've got this kind of thickness. This will be covered up, the inside will be covered up, but we've got kind of the sharp lines combined with the smooth shapes, sharp lines here. So that looks a little bit better when we smooth it out. So once we've got that done, the next thing that we want to do now is add those tubes. And those are going to be added using some simple curves. So let's do that next.